Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe. It really helps the channel out. We're absolutely getting a lot of new subscribers and also some new members. So thank you very much for doing that. Link is in the description. If you want to support the channel financially, no obligation. Just by being here makes me a happy man. And we're here to talk about Carlton versus the Port Adelaide. In Adelaide, the Blues running out 36-point winners after what was a real seesaw affair. And I did want to spend a bit of time on this game here talking about how impressed I am, how the Blues are really looking to really take the game in stages. They're really starting to become a real metronome side. And that first half particularly was a real seesaw affair. But what is really pleasing with these Blues, not just their fitness in the fourth quarters, which is really apparent in the last couple of last couple of seasons, how in the fourth quarter they can match it in these tight games. For me, it's more so how they're learning to balance the games as well. We saw in that first half a lot of people complaining about stoppage and clearance, but the big thing for me was when you watch the Blues play in that kind of avenue is their ability to break even at least or make it hard. And although we were losing the clearance battle at one stage, we did get 3 turnovers from them situations. So this is what I always go to say to you with the stoppage and clearance. It's also how you set up behind that, because last year Carlton had an absolute mammoth amount of scores from stoppage and clearance, but they also hemorrhaged scores against there. And that is a big little avenue there. And our scores from turnover from them areas were incredibly poor, and we're starting to see them really balance out, and that's really exciting. The move again of Pom Cotter, my boy, to play on a dangerous player was again another shrewd move. He really did negate Butters, and that having that string to the ball with the addition of Elijah Hollands really shows you that how they can manufacture that leg speed with that overlap, and particularly that overload. And it's no surprise to me to see Kemp and Marchbank and McGovern on the score sheet because of that overload, both of them popping up because the wingers nip back, and that allows them to go. And it was really interesting this week to see Newman and Sard work centrally as the back pockets fan out and really spread behind the ball, which really creates a really good defensive setup. And Voss has really indicated the last 2 weeks that he's shelved what he knows. And I think this is a big thing that we've heard Voss say. There's a lot of things they're working on the training track. For 2 years now, he's talked about turnover game. Feels like he's now really confident to show that in game. And these players have really earned that reward from the trust factor. And that was a real pleasing thing to see. This was really happy for me to see 2 professional performances. To be honest, I rate Gold Coast in the same par as Port. I think people overrate Port and their importance. I think they underrate Gold Coast. I think both sides are very damaging. And when you see how Carlton traditionally play around the ball and very weak at defending turnover, I think these are 2 danger games, if there is such a thing. And you know how I feel about that. So I think to see 2 professional performances, 2 workman-like performances is really, really exciting. And there was a lot to take out of this, because that fourth quarter, once Cripper, TDK, Sam Walsh started to get going, that was a very, very, very telling moment, because key players take their moments, and they did it again. And I like the way that we structure up. I feel like this side here, this 22, is probably our best 22, if there is such a thing, because it is so well balanced around here. And I think that the only change you could make was Adam Sheriff Chincotta, because he plays higher up the ground now. It's more of a very pseudo mid-slight forward role. So you add Cherry to this mix of the team, suddenly you've got a total different avenue there. And it was good to see. I thought the Blues as well did a lot of work here on Alia. We saw it again last week with intercept marks, of working it out, of going deeper and trying to create that natural one out and taking him away from the contest. And it took them a half, but once they worked it out, that was really good. So let's get into the big, cold, hard facts. And you see here, pre-game stoppage, 37 points for Carlton, 34. And it's really interesting to know, this is what I say, even though the opposition had the dominance at the start, the way we play, you're never going to score massive amounts from it. The personnel in there, stoppage is always going to be around this 40 mark, and that's about AFL average. So that's really important to note, that when you watch the Blues play, this onus, Voss has done the hard work over the last couple of years, getting them to be dominant in this avenue, right? To be dominant in this avenue. And when you look at how the Blues play, that the average scores against in the AFL are 46 points. So Carlton are always going to be median below that because of their personnel there. Carlton had that ascendancy. You saw how hard Port had to work to wrestle control around the source. So Carlton in the fourth, they had superior fitness, and you saw it. You saw Cripper blaze away from JHF, who's a quick player. You saw Cripper blaze away from Dan Houston, who's another quick player. Game takes it out of you. The only thing, you never get smaller, you get slower when you're tired. And that is the big thing there. The Blues may be one pace, but they're one pace throughout the game. And they hide that by playing in that overload. You saw it. There was a great passage in the fourth where we got that turnover in the forward half. And that was because there was so many players. You look, there was like a wall of 13 Blues. So that is a really important part of the game, and something that we've really got to praise Michael Voss for, because that is a key ingredient. The turnovers, again, starting to be impressive. Carlton negated their turnovers with that wall, playing really high up the ground. And you're going to get caught out when you do it. And that's where these 28 points from turnover came. The Blues commit a lot of men. Kent McGovern kicking goals proves how much we commit in the forward half of the ground. We try and really hemorrhage you in from halfway. And I don't mind that. 28, that's 20 less points from turnover that Port Adelaide are accustomed to. And again, the Blues, 49 plus 3. This is slowly building up. Slowly building up. And it's really, really important to notice that when you talk about score sources, last year Carlton was so below average. They're now ranked 5th in the league, right? Which is an incredible, incredible amount of time being put into that. And they're well above average, where last year we were below average. We were bottom 3 for this stat. That is an incredible effort from the Blues. And the defensive half generation, about the same. But again, look, very important. We talked about it pre-game, that Port Adelaide, they struggled to get it out. The Blues saw that, and they really did focus on that. So that is a really good sign. The pressure here, again, the midfield pressure was exceptional throughout the game, and scoring plus 32 this week from pressure acts. Wow. Obviously, Port, they had to defend. This is a game here where this should be flipped. We would expect, based on history, Port to really monster this. And there was no real change from Port, but Blues really brought their pressure. And the tackles, again, Carlton managing to evade tackles, a lot of handball running, that overlap run we talk about, creating them options. The Blues, this new rule change, once it comes into force, will actually help the Blues out, because I feel we become too reliant at times on trying to get that contact and handball off. The Blues were a lot more quick this week on doing that and really utilising their overlap run. And it's funny, the Blues have been preparing this for about 2 years, and the rule comes into force. Probably we are pole position to be the best at this new rule change, because that has been Voss's plan since he came through the door. Commit more runners. And once we got more wingers in, that was really poignant. And the tackles inside 50, again, the Blues really, really kicking some ass in this avenue. Really important, this one, for the Blues, because this is a real metronome. And we always talk about the pressure acts have to lead into tackles eventually. And this week, we really did see that from the Blues. The Blues were really, really poignant on there. Ollie Holland's 4 tackles inside 50. Again, that overlap run, that overload. Sam Walsh, 3. Erasio Fantasia, 2. Elijah, 2. All these players playing high and advanced in transition when we have the ball. So that is a real reassuring little thing. And it's going to be interesting when you see Jesse Motlop here, because just ironically, he is the best forward at tackling around the ground. So because Carlton play that high defense line, and forwards are expected to nip in. If you watch how Owies and Fantasia work, they nip in behind the midfield, and the midfield overlap them in defensive transition. And you saw that with Blake Acres' intercepts, because their kick-ins concede the most points, Port. And Carlton did their homework because they play a scattered formation. They're one of the only sides in the league that do that from a kick in. And what that means is usually you see a side load a channel. So Carlton load the left side to kick it out. They scatter. Now, that's really hard. It caught Carlton out a couple of times this week. It really did. But once they worked it out, it's basically just one-on-ones around the ground. And that's what Carlton did. They nipped their smaller players into the midfield and made their taller, hard-running players, Mackay and Akers, look for that short option, because that short option is how they get it out. And it was very interesting that Carlton really negated that. They got a goal from kicking, and that was the last time they ever did it. And then the Blues managed to get 15 points from opposition kick-ins, a real solid return there from the Blues, and a real reassuring time that the scouting department are doing their job. Marks inside 50 rate, the Blues slight increase here, and again, the first half trying to force the issue. And this is a real interesting thing with the inside 50s. They really force the issue when they're a little bit, it's almost like they're frustrated and they're trying to get it in. In the second half, it was a lot more cooler, particularly in the fourth. They really looked to get that ball into true one-outs and go deep and penetrating and let the smalls and the midfields overload them areas. Obviously, Port, they did have success and this is always going to be the case against the Blues. We're always going to have this issue because we play so high up. You are going to get natural one-outs. Goals inside 50, the Blues up 3%. Same as Port. This game here was a real slingshot game, and the Blues favoured that. The scores inside 50, this here for me with the Blues is where they can get better. This is an entry issue. I'm not too dramatically worried about it because they won by 36. But this is definitely an issue that they'll come out of this and say, right, we've got to, our best inside 50s to our worst are massive gaps. If we can shorten that up, that will be good. That will be good long term. Rebound 50 rate. Now, this is really important here because Carlton, again, increased this. And again, we talked about they have got an iffy rebound 50 rate. We really put pressure on this. And I want to give TDK a shout out here because his second efforts and the way he didn't get drawn into contests, particularly when there was stoppages in D50, needs to be really credited. The Chincotta goal was all TDK. He didn't get drawn into the contest. You saw Soldo got drawn in, which created the freedom for TDK to do that. And shout out Matt Cruiser here. Shout out Matt Cruiser because Matt Cruiser was the gift of knowing when to go and when to sit off. And this is a really important thing because we're starting to see a lot of Cruiser in TDK. And he's, for me, there's two players this year who are most improved for me. The ground ball work of Jordan Boyd is ridiculous at the moment. He is in another level. Everyone raves about his kicking. Fuck his kicking. Anyone who's 12 knows he's a good kick. His defensive craft exponentially improved. Exponentially. We're talking Nick Newman levels now. TDK, though, yeah, he was good last year, but now it's the IQ of this guy. TDK is way head and shoulders. If TDK played TDK 2023, TDK would batter him. Now. Real complete player. I am really excited about what I'm seeing. Intercept marks. This is an interesting one, because the Blues got good intercept possessions. There wasn't intercept marks, and we've got to talk about this. We've been complaining. Well, we haven't been complaining, but we've been focused on Carlton spoiling over marking. You saw it bear fruit this week. Because of that overload, they overload channels and they overload where the ball lands. Spoiling is more important than marking because we want it on the ground ball. And see what I said about Jordan Boyd. All them players who play in the back line, Brodie Kemp particularly, has always been very good below his feet. But McGovern's starting to add that now. Newman's always been good. Sard's always been good. Now you've got Boyd there. You've got 7 players that play down the back who can pick up a ball. And it's a tough one. And again, you say first half, Aliyah, 2 shallow entries. This is something that the Blues have got to look, because if your forward pressure and your midfield pressure isn't on, you don't want to be giving up possession too easy to let them set up the transition, particularly the way that they look to spread the ground. That's a common thing with Carlton because it takes about 2 possessions on average. Watching the game back today, it takes about 2 possessions for the Blues to set that whole wall, right? Because everyone's frantically running back. And what you see is they go short, which stops 2 runners slotting back into the midfield. And before you know it, the second kick, if Carlton haven't slowed it down enough, you're missing 7 players in that defensive chain. Real interesting little avenue here, because although it's not a worry because you won by 36, it's something that I'm sure the coaches will be looking at of not being drawn in. Not being drawn in. A few times in that first half, Leah drew it in with the dummy, the short kick, or the short kick in the give and go. And by that stage, 3 players are taken out of the defensive channel in that zone. So that's going to be something that's really to look out for. But this is a real reassuring one. Carlton knew one-on-one that we could beat them. We looked for it, and we did. I said that it was a fraudulent status, their one-on-one percentage. And again, do you know what I mean? They looked to target it. Obviously, they had a slight increase, less than 7%. Carlton slightly lost a bit more, but that was because we were really targeted a lot. Brodie Kemp heavily targeted again, backfiring on the opposition. Real interesting start. And let's go to the key performers this week. Harry Mackay in this game, massively improved, 62%. Ryan Burton there, being their star performer over where we expected. TDK, look, continues to shock. And this is going to get harder for him because Nick Newman gets suffered with this because we expect him to be good all the time. Mitch Giordadis, again, a lot of them were loose goals, to be fair. Not taking it away from him. Incredible footballer. And it was good to see him because I'm a big fan of Mitchie. But it was through lackadaisical defence at times that I've really wanted that number. Brodie Kemp continuing to impress. This guy is stonewalled in the best 22. I don't want to hear any Marchbank talk ever again. Blake Acres, this guy was everywhere. He was almost a demon in the side. Lucky Fogarty. So TPI here, this is something that we do, but we do look at the score involvement and we look at, is it the possession leading to that? So this is a really important stat for me. It's where a player is involved with either a kick, a knock on, or a spoil to advantage, hit out to advantage, disposal. This guy's numbers in this avenue are absolutely criminally insane in close. For me, Fogarty, 6 of them score involvements, 5 of them were deep inside 50 when the ball looks like it's going to be wrapped up. Incredibly underrated player. And people talk about, oh, he doesn't kick goals. He creates goals, right? So you've got to see here, this is a small forward kicking 5 goals, right? So if everyone's saying Zach Williams is our best forward, Fogarty's better because he creates more opportunities for the players around him. So Fogarty is an incredible player. Players that just missed out, 29.2%. Alex Chincotta, got to talk about Pomcar. What a fucking player he is. Big raps on that boy. And it's great to see him enjoy the game. It brings a smile on my face. And this was a good game, this, for the Blues. This is, again, a reassured, calm, collected performance. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's have a chat about it. Can't wait to talk about this one. I'm really happy we've got 10 days to digest this. But I agree with Vossi. This is a turning point game. This is a turning point game. And no more talk about hoodoos and curses, yeah? Leave that to me. Peace, love, and light. Pom out.
I see her rolling up over black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella